Welcome back to this week's episode of Mining the Comments. This week we'll discuss what the last phase of insomnia may look like. What has it been like for me? And what is considered normal? So, first and foremost, I'd like to thank everybody for posting questions and comments, as Mining the Comments would really couldn't exist without you posting questions. So, I really appreciate everybody who's been so supportive. And so, this week's question comes from Jamie. And Jamie asks, can you share more information on the long tail end phase of insomnia recovery? There's lots of amazing and super helpful content on insomnia recovery, but not much on the nuances of the last phases as it fizzles out. And I think it'd be helpful, as sometimes I feel as if I am, can't even read, I feel as if I am a little lost as to what is normal. Well, Jamie, thank you. Appreciate that question, like I said. And as we start with insomnia, we're dealing with a lot of heaviness, a lot of pressure. All we want to do is get some sleep. And as we start sleeping better, we start going through some speed bumps, and we start learning and adding information and educating ourselves. And we still feel fear, anxiety, right? All these things. And as things start to improve, again, this is it's going to vary from person to person, but as things start to improve, we start having these speed bumps, and those can last maybe a couple days or longer, and things kind of tend to mellow out. And in my case, I remember going through maybe weeks without any type of sleep struggle, and still feeling anxious and fearful every night, even though I had enough proof or evidence that I was sleeping well and I could do it all on my own. And so speed bump would come along, I'd still feel a little bit anxious, right? I talk about how I started shifting my perspective on things and how I saw these speed bumps as opportunities, and I would move past it. And once again, I'd have maybe a few weeks of no problems, and they went from having all nighters to maybe struggling for, I don't know, maybe a few hours or longer at nights and so forth. So again, it was inconsistent. Right? We're not looking for any patterns because it's very messy. Um, but what I noticed was that at one point I really had gotten to, I would say, a phase where it wasn't as scary as it was before. That even if I struggled, that I was going to be fine. I was going to be okay. I had already started working on responding, reframing how the night was. And so there was a lot less pressure, a lot less anxiety, a lot less fear. That doesn't mean that the fear was completely gone. So if you were to ask me right now, I would say, just taking a wild guess, if somebody said, have you been sleeping well for the last, I don't know, 6 or 8 months? Yes, I have. I've had maybe a couple of minute speed bumps, but I didn't even call them speed bumps. They were normal, just a normal reaction to maybe having a bit of a hard time sleeping because of just things that happen in life in general. And so I really don't consider those insomnia. I don't consider those speed bumps. I think things are just fine. But interestingly enough, I still find myself with very small degrees of fear almost daily. And let me explain. So I could be driving home and it's getting dark, and a thought will come up. What if tonight is one of those nights where you're not going to sleep very well? Now, before, I would definitely feel this. I would become anxious, and the drive home would be maybe uncomfortable for a little bit. But now I think about it, I really don't have too much of a response to it. I just kind of allow it to be there, and I just move on and go, yeah, maybe. But if something happens, it doesn't really matter. I know how to respond. I've struggled before, and it can't hurt me. And so, not that long ago, maybe about a week ago, we had some difficulties, some pretty hard news from one of our family members, and so that kept me up most of the night. Um, and it was interesting because I felt pretty calm. I knew what to do. Um, and even still, part of me in the back of my head goes, oh no, what if this starts again? What if this is triggering? But the reality is that um, it was a difficult night because I had some difficult news. I was struggling with something. And so um, I just had a normal reaction. So the following day, I didn't really pay much attention to it, but even still, I still felt some anxiety. I still felt some fear. What if I don't sleep again tonight? And so this is so common. It's so normal to have these feelings um, of fear because what happened to us was so difficult, because we struggled for so long. We're still going to have this residual anxiety, this residual fear. But what if we reframed things and just gave it a different look? So, what if this little fear that I feel still to this day is a way for my brain to start numbing itself, to start exposing itself to it just enough so it finally starts to get bored? So it finally starts to not care about it anymore because it's thought about it for so long. Does that make sense? Um, what if the brain just goes, okay, we've been doing this for so long now, for 6 months, for a year, for however long, and we see that it can't hurt us. And so whenever I deal with somebody that is finally doing so much better, but then they get worried and they feel like, oh no, why hasn't this resolved itself by now? Why hasn't this ended? And there's an attempt to want it to finally end, to do something for it to, what else can I do? What else can I learn? What else can I read or watch to finally bring me to the point where I don't think about it anymore? But what if recovery looks just like this? And if we were to all of a sudden switch off, then the brain wouldn't feel comfortable, wouldn't feel like it had bored itself to a point where it doesn't come up anymore. So every single night, even if it's for just a fleeting, few seconds, if I have any thoughts about tonight, I think, oh no, this is great. I'm glad I'm still thinking about this or it's coming up, because it's going to get to a point where I'm going to get so bored of thinking about this that the brain one day, someday, doesn't matter when, won't have any interest to think about it anymore. You think about examples in your life that were maybe difficult, right? So if we're talking to somebody that's roughly my age, 50 years old, we've had, I don't know, experiences in our life that have been difficult. Maybe there's been a loss of a pet or relationship or whatever it is. And at that moment, it was so painful, so difficult. We would think, how can we not feel this pain and misery because it's so strong right now? But as time has gone by, what happens? We think about it a little bit less at a time. It doesn't go away right away. Maybe after several years, it becomes more manageable. It doesn't strike us heavy. It doesn't weigh us down. It doesn't put this heavy pressure on us. But we just think about it. We can maybe be sad about it. I remember the loss of one of my dogs. I was so close to him. And it took years for me to finally not have those heavy reactions, those heavy thoughts and feelings. And so now, when I reflect back on Spencer, his name is Spencer, on Spencer, I think about, I'm so glad I had that relationship with him and I connected with him. And even though I miss him, I don't lay in bed at nights feeling sad like I did when he just passed away. And so, like insomnia, it's something that's difficult, traumatic, a tragic event that the more we just give it space and time and don't question ourselves or don't wonder why it's happening, it's going to fade. And every time we think about it, it gives us a little bit of fear, a little bit of anxiety. maybe that's just the way the body and the brain is learning to just kind of process itself and wear itself out and get to a point where it no longer affects us. So I'm pretty sure that one day, whenever that is, because it doesn't matter, because I have no control over it, one day I'm going to look back and go, oh, that's right. I had insomnia. Whether that's months from now or years from now, it really doesn't matter. It's part of letting go of control of something that I can't control. And so if you are doing well, you've been sleeping well for weeks, for months, for however long, but you're still wondering why you're still attached, why you're still having feelings and thoughts or some fears and anxiety, know that you're responding completely normal and in a healthy way, that your brain is doing its job. It's supposed to be doing this. And so just continue to move forward and recognize that as we reframe it and see that this is what it needs to do, what it needs to feel, for you to just kind of get bored. I've heard this before from other people, other coaches that have recovered, and I can understand it better now. Even though I wish it was completely gone, at the same time, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't affect me anymore. And so I hope this has been helpful. I hope Jamie, this can answer your question, but know that you are, I would say, at the tail end of it. And to just allow your brain to do what it needs to do. You already know how to respond to it. You've already been through the worst of it. And so you know that the nights not sleeping or having a difficult night, it can't hurt you. It can't affect you. And so know that you're going the right direction. And these thoughts and feelings are completely natural. So that is all for this week. I hope this was helpful. And again, as always, please feel free to comment, post comments or ask questions about this video or any questions that you may have about sleep. It's been an absolute pleasure doing these videos and connecting with those. My apologies for being gone for a couple of weeks. Been a little hectic around here, so but things are back to normal. And I will see you next week. You all take care. Have a wonderful week. Bye.
They say that the best things in life are free. And I truly hope that this free video helps you rediscover something else that is free, which is peaceful sleep. If you do find our content here helpful, then please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share it with people, because the more views we get, the more people we reach, the more chances of changing lives we have. The thing is, leaving insomnia for good is actually so simple. You can and will rediscover a beautiful life at the end of this sleepless tunnel. So yes, please share it with people, hit the subscribe button, and you will be a big part of leading the change that we so want to see in the sleep universe. Thank you.